Good morning. We're going to let people come in for a few minutes here. We got a couple minutes before 9 o'clock, and we'll start the rant then. Finish up my game on my phone. Maybe comb my hair. uh, Never could do anything with it. Okay. I really ought to trim this before I gets into my drinks. This way. All right. So, unless you've been living under a rock, you've seen a kill all men post. Maybe it's in jest, maybe it's not. Some feminists are actually crazy enough to think that they should kill all men and just live by some sort of miracle of life and make more women babies. Of course, killing all men would end up with the society ending up destroyed and the whole human race going away. Without the society, you wouldn't be able to make these double egg babies that would be the only way to make a viable all-female society. So, obviously, kill all men is crazy. But the less radical feminists are also crazy. There is no gender wage gap. In fact, because women are perceived as more beautiful than men, and prettiness or handsomeness or beauty is correlated with slightly higher earnings. Women actually in the same job for the same number of years earn slightly more than men, even with fewer accomplishments. Women get promoted these days more than men because of the desire to have equality in the higher ranks. Now, this is against egalitarianism, of course, and against pragmatism, because in competition, women are not as good as men. It is a fact of life. Men have the killer instinct that women just do not have. For a similar reason, women shouldn't be in the military. They don't have the killer instinct. They don't belong there. There are, when I say these things, I do not mean every woman and every man. There are poor, helpless men who are soft in the testicles and don't have what it takes to be at all competitive. By the same token, there are some women who, for one reason or another, have been have a very violent personality, and those are, but those are tail people on both sides. the middle of men and the middle of women, men are going to be way more violent than women, way more competitive, way more really dangerous. Um, that's why it's a stunt to say I'll fight any woman, and you know then get your ass kicked by the one mixed martial artist woman who's been studying martial arts for 50 years or 20 years, and you don't know a damn thing about how to counter it. But can any male martial artist beat any female martial artist? Yes. Can any male boxer beat any female boxer? Yes. Even the best female boxer cannot compete with a male boxer of even moderate ability. Just like we're seeing now when these men are calling themselves women and going and fighting and running against women, they clean their clocks every time because women don't have the body structure of a man. The connected pelvis gives you a lot of more leverage for running. It's just how people are built, and there's nothing the man can do about it. They can't go in and saw his pelvis in half like a woman so that he doesn't have that advantage. They're not going. A doctor's not going to do that because you can look like a woman pretty much without it doing that invasive and destructive procedure. And even if they sawed the guy's pelvis in half, they wouldn't have the cartilage and the bodily hormones. His body would not know what it was doing to make that cartilage. So even if they put cartilage there, it would be useless. It would go away in a matter of years. So you can't make a man into a woman. You can't make a woman into a man. It just doesn't happen. You can mutilate either one to look like the other, but it's no more valid than Dr. Moreau's experiments. So what about the moderate feminist, the one who just thinks women should have equality, and that they should have the vote, and that they should have, they should be treated the same as men in every situation and be encouraged to go to science and things? Well, if you look at Nobel Prizes, men, 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 all up and down the line, 2 or 3 women in the science Nobel Prizes. It's the numbers are so skewed, it's incredible. Don't encourage your daughter to be a scientist unless she is an insanely crazy kid about science. Don't do it. It will make her unhappy. She won't be a good scientist. She won't do a good job. It's a sad fact of life that most of the girls who get into science really don't do a good job and really aren't happy. It's a sad fact of life that most women who are outside the home working in a retail job, even ones that pay $15 an hour, which, let's face it, you go out the door, you go to get to a retail job, unless you get up to manager, you're making $15 an hour in 99% of those jobs. Those women aren't even happy. It's just the state of things. They'd be happier staying at home, raising their children, and having those children out of the hands of the state as often as they can. My sister is a stay-at-home mom, has been for her entire life. She married young, she stayed at home, she raised her children. Those children are wondrous. Now, my sister, I think, is a wondrous person, and that adds a lot to it, and they are a religious family. But I think every mother is a better person for their children than any stranger. And I don't think that that's under debate. And I think that every mother should be with their children, and and every woman should be engaging in motherhood. It is a strong thing for the woman. It is a strong thing for the family. It is a strong thing for the country that you come from. It is a strong thing for society to have mothers care for their own children. And the children are happier. The children are healthier. They aren't indoctrinated as much. For that matter, homeschooling your child is better educated, even if you aren't a highly educated person, than if they go to public school, because you can tailor. You learn what your child learns, how your child learns. You have the incentive to care for that child's learning, which a stranger doesn't have. That stranger has to be altruistic or paid. And that's neither of those is as good as the person who is doing it out of their own best interest, because it is their child who they want to be as successful as possible. But what about the vote? Oh, women's suffrage is a great thing in the world. Well, maybe, maybe not. Happiness has gone down in the world since women's suffrage came in. It was not it does not lead to happiness pragmatically. And why? Well, because women aren't suited for making decisions based on facts as well as men. A man might not have all the facts, but he will make his decision and make his choice based on those facts. He's not going to be swayed by emotion. Whereas a woman, well, what happened the first election in which women had the vote? They elected the handsomest person. They elected the handsomest. So I'm not sure that that was the best choice. And that guy had one term, and then they went to Calvin Coolidge, who was also handsome. Herbert Hoover, who was handsome. And so we've got a string of politicians where handsomeness is, rather than their policies, has been the deciding factor. And that's not good. And, let's face it, Hillary was ugly. Trump was handsome still. And women aren't as swayed by other women's beauty as men are. And so trying to get a woman elected president is a losing proposition unless she has really good policies. You can't just say it's because she has a coat and hope that makes it work. So you just you could make the argument that women having the vote was a bad thing, and that it would have been better to not have women's suffrage, to have the suffrage be according to head of household or something like that. And that would change things entirely. My own thought is that suffrage should never be extended to anybody getting government largesse. If you are uh, uh, majority stockholder of a company that gets a government contract, or you are a direct recipient of federal aid, or you are otherwise a on government largesse, you should not vote because you are on the poll side. If you are a government employee, you should not vote because you are on the negative side of that. You are not you do not get to decide what they do with their own money. The people who are contributing are the ones who should be deciding what to do, who to represent them, because you are not the contributor, you are the leech. And so I think if we just put in a rule that if you're getting government largesse, that would take away a lot of women's vote accidentally on the side. But the argument for taking away the vote from people with getting largesse is that they should not. And it could be, net largesse. If your net largesse from the government is positive, uh, if your net payments into the government are negative, then no, you don't get to vote. You're on the negative side. You don't get to vote. You can cancel all those programs and not take those payments, and then we'll let you vote. But no, while you're taking money from the government, you don't vote. But that would require national ID, tracking of all government payments at all levels to everybody by social security number, and tracking your voter ID by your social security number, which I think is appropriate and proper. And and it would also take care of all the dead vote, right? Because if you're dead, you're not putting anything into the system. So anyway, those are my thoughts on females and feminism. And I love my wife, but there was a great Twitter I saw the other day. Ladies posted on Twitter back in the Kavanaugh hearings. I got dragged out of the Kavanaugh hearings on live TV, and my husband said, "This is the last straw," and left me. And there was about 50-50 of good for him and "you go, girl," in the Twitter comments. It was hilarious. Her husband did exactly what he should have done. What he probably should have done a long time before. She was a community organizer or something, right? Her husband said, "That's enough is enough," and left her. Ladies, if you're a feminist, your husband hates it. Give it up for your own good. Peace and joy.